Pattie Pitter, She Hates Litter. Pattie Pitter, She Hates Litter by Jill Hickey with drawings by Jeff Domm. Pattie Pitter was the cleanest, neatest person in her whole school. Pattie hated to get dirty. She hated when her desk got messy. She hated when her clothes got wrinkled. But what Pattie Pitter hated most was litter. Pattie Pitter's father, Peter Pitter, was a garbage man. He told Pattie all about the days before recycling, when everything was buried in one big hole and no one cared. And so Pattie Pitter hated litter. When Pattie was in school, she spent so much time picking up litter that she barely had time to play. She would pick up all the children's garbage. She threw their empty juice boxes into the recycling containers, candy wrappers into the garbage containers, and leftover food into the compost containers. All the other children made fun of Pattie Pitter. They would see her outside picking up litter and yell, "Here's some litter, Pattie Pitter," shouting as they ran. Pick it up, throw it in the recycling can." Then they would run off, leaving their garbage scattered on the grass. Pattie didn't like to be teased, but she just would not stop picking up the trash. She decided to talk to her teacher, Miss Rubble. Pattie marched into the school, down the hall, and knocked on Miss Rubble's door. "Come in," Miss Rubble called. Pattie opened the door and stepped inside. There was Miss Rubble sitting at her desk, surrounded by crusts of bread, balls of paper, and litter everywhere. Miss Rubble's hair was messed, and her glasses sat crooked on her nose. Her trash can overflowed onto the classroom floor. Miss Rubble squinted over her crooked glasses and asked impatiently, "Yes, what is it? I'm very busy." "Well, miss," Pattie answered, "the thing is, you see." Then, taking a deep, deep breath, Pattie yelled as loud as she could, "I am Pattie Pitter, and I hate litter!" Miss Rubble picked herself up from the classroom floor, brushed herself off, and sighed. "I'm sorry, my dear, but that's not my department. You must go and talk to the principal." So Pattie turned around, marched down the hall, and knocked on Principal Junkett's door. "Come in," Mr. Junket called. Pattie pushed open the door and squeezed through. There was Mr. Junket at the computer, surrounded by piles of empty cardboard boxes. The filing cabinet doors were open, and papers streamed down to the floor. Mr. Junket's sleeves were rolled up, his tie was loose, and his pants were all wrinkled. His trash can overflowed onto the office floor. He looked at Pattie Pitter impatiently and asked, "Yes, what is it? I'm very busy." "Well, sir," answered Pattie, "the thing is, you see." Then, taking a deep, deep breath, Pattie yelled as loud as she could, "I am Pattie Pitter, and I hate litter!" Mr. Junket picked himself up from the office floor, brushed himself off, and sighed. "I'm sorry, my dear, but that's not my department. You must go and talk to Mr. Rags, the janitor." So Pattie turned around and marched down the stairs to the janitor's office. Pattie Pitter knocked on Mr. Rags' door. "Come in," called Mr. Rags. Pattie opened the door and slipped in. There was Mr. Rags bent over his floor polisher, surrounded by empty paint cans, rusty buckets, and gobs of paper towels. Mr. Rags' shirt was torn and his pants were full of grease. His trash can overflowed onto the basement floor. Mr. Rags looked at Pattie impatiently and asked, "Yes, what is it? I'm very busy." "Well," Pattie answered, "the thing is, you see." Then, taking a deep, deep breath, Pattie yelled as loud as she could, "I am Pattie Pitter, and I hate litter!" Mr. Rags picked himself up from the basement floor, brushed himself off, and sighed. "I'm sorry, my dear, but that's not my department. You must go and talk to the other children." So Pattie turned around and marched up the stairs, down the hall, and out into the schoolyard. All the children in the schoolyard saw Patty and yelled, "Here's some litter, Pattie Pitter," shouting as they ran, pick it up, throw it in the recycling can." Then they ran off, leaving their garbage scattered on the grass. Pattie Pitter stood in the middle of the schoolyard. She took her deepest, longest breath and yelled as loud as she could, "I am Pattie Pitter, and I hate litter." The children picked themselves up from the ground, brushed themselves off, then watched Patty stomp angrily away without picking up their trash. The next day at school, the children ran up to Patty and yelled, "Here's some litter, Pattie Pitter," shouting as they ran, pick it up, throw it in the recycling can." Then they ran off, leaving their garbage scattered on the grass. But this time Patty did not pick up their litter. Instead, she just tossed her head, smiled a little smile, and skipped into the school. For days and days and weeks, the children threw their chip bags, juice boxes, milk containers, and bread crusts all over the schoolyard. They dropped paper and candy wrappers and orange peels and apple cores inside the school. But Patty did not pick up the litter. She just tossed her head and smiled a little smile. Soon, garbage was piled up so high that the children could not go outside and play. The litter inside the school was piled so high it almost touched the ceiling. The trash in the classrooms was piled so high it covered the windows. And the smell was so bad the children had to wear clothespins on their noses. But Patty just tossed her head and smiled a little smile and pushed on through the trash. One morning, Mr. Junket announced, "Because of the garbage, the buses can no longer get into the schoolyard, and I cannot open the doors." "I'm sorry," said Mr. Junket, "but no one will be able to go home today, and no one can play in the schoolyard." Some of the children started to cry. They didn't want to stay at school. They wanted to go outside and play. Now it was time for Pattie Pitter to go to work. She tossed her head, smiled a little smile, and crawled over the piles of garbage to the principal's office. "Don't worry, Mr. Junket," Patty said. "I will phone my father, Peter Pitter. He will come and help us." Soon the children heard a great roar of engines racing down School Street. There were 222 garbage trucks, 144 recycling trucks, 31 backhoes, and 73 men carrying shovels and recycling bags. "Hooray!" yelled the children. "Hooray for the garbage men!" But then the 222 garbage trucks, 144 recycling trucks, 31 backhoes, and 73 garbage men stopped in front of the school. The children waited, but nothing happened. Pattie Pitter told the children, "My father said the garbage men will not take the trash away until it is put in the right bags." Then Pattie Pitter showed the children what to do. She put pop cans into the recycling bags. She put candy bar wrappers into the garbage bags. She put apple cores and orange peels into the compost containers. Soon everyone was recycling. Mr. Junket flattened his cardboard boxes and tied them into bundles. Miss Rubble filled the whole recycling bag with paper from her desk. Mr. Rags gathered his cans of leftover paint and empty bottles for the local recycling depot. All the children worked together until the bags were filled with garbage from inside the school. Then Pattie Pitter jumped through the open window and began sorting the litter in the schoolyard. All the children and teachers followed her. They worked all day picking up papers, food, and cans, putting them in proper recycling, garbage, and compost containers. Finally, the schoolyard was spotless, and all the bags were on the garbage and recycling trucks. Pattie Pitter stood in the middle of the yard. She took a deep, deep breath and yelled as loud as she could, "I am Pattie Pitter, and I hate litter." Everyone picked themselves up from the ground, brushed themselves off, then ran towards Patty singing, "Hooray for Pattie Pitter! She hates litter." Pattie Pitter tossed her head, smiled a little smile, and jumped into the cab of her father's garbage truck. They pulled out of the schoolyard, followed by the filled 221 garbage trucks, 144 recycling trucks, 31 backhoes, and 73 men carrying shovels. Now the children could play outside again, and Pattie Pitter School won an award for having the cleanest, neatest, healthiest school in all of Nova Scotia. So hooray for Pattie Pitter, she hates litter, and we hate litter too.